Jesus didn't have a problem with people that's in the streets. He had a problem with religious people.
How can I help anybody when I was not even able to help my own son?
I would never do that. And I became that in a matter of minutes when they took my pain pills away.
And I said, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be.
This is Faith in Your Recovery. I'm Randy Davis. Welcome to the battle. Hey, thanks for joining us again here at Faith in Your Recovery. We're in the 150 range for episodes. We hope you've been a part of many of those. If not, go back, take a listen, take a look, and just continue to draw friends in and be a part of this healing process we call recovery. Before we get into today's guest story, if I can get that out, here's just a little FYI for you about who we are as a podcast. We had a chance recently to look at analytics and just look at some of the things that have been going on, some of our statistics, and we're pleased. We're happy with our numbers. Of course, we want to raise that up, but we recognize something kind of unique, and I think this is probably a high figure. I've not had a chance to go back and look at it comparatively, but we want you to know that our Faith in Your Recovery podcast has a 15% international audience. By that, I simply mean that 85% of our listeners are here in the USA, and 15% are not. So recognize and realize out of that 15%, we have a very high percentage. About a half of those come from Germany. Don't ask me why. I have no idea, but we're just thrilled that they've tuned in and turned on to us and that they're a part of our program. Maybe it's got to do with the fact that back in the 1970s, I'd lived on the economy in Germany for about 14 months when I was stationed there with the U.S. Army. Yeah, I'm sure I was that memorable that they're listening to us, all right? But we'll grasp at anything at this point. So I just want to tell our friends there in Germany with my best accent, Guten Tag, which just understand, folks, that's a good day. And that's what I'm trying to tell our friends there. We're glad they're a part of us. Falkenstein, Germany, that seems to be where we have the highest percentage of listeners, so we're good with that. And hey, we invite you to email us at podcast@ablbh.org. Let us know what you're thinking over there. And if you have questions, ask them. We'd love to have you get involved. So now, let's get down to business. Our guest today is Sara Mann. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Sara, tell the folks what you're about professionally at this point.
Professionally at this point, I am a certified peer recovery coach and a peer navigator. So I work in the community, and I also am doing some work inside of the jail.
Which jail is that?
Jay County Security Center.
Okay.
Just to help advocate for those who are struggling, to walk alongside those in recovery, and just to share hope.
Yeah. How long have you been about that? How long have you been doing that kind of work?
Actually, I will be with the coalition now, Jay County Drug Prevention Coalition and Past Recovery Services. It'll be 2 years on October the 3rd.
How long have you yourself been clean and sober, whatever the case is?
July 10th of 2019.
So we're looking at 4.5 years?
5 and a couple of months.
Yeah,
yes.
5.
Yep.
Well, good deal. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, let's go back early in life. Tell us of some of those experiences that you believe played into your addiction, your struggles, your need for recovery.
Well, I started experimenting with marijuana and alcohol probably in my early teens. I grew up in a very a good family, and I had grandparents who were really involved in the church and had us involved in the church, and I was involved in a Lutheran school, and so I was raised kind of in a faith household. My father did divorce my mom, or they got divorced, I guess, and I was 4, and I had a younger brother, he was 2. So I grew up, I went and saw my dad, and my dad was around, but not as what a young girl would have really wanted.
Yeah.
I always had that need, that kind of an abandonment feeling. My grandparents stepped in and really helped my mom, and that played a role in kind of how I viewed myself, or felt valued or not valued. I don't know. And so, anyway, like I said, in school, I kind of just experimented, and as I got I got really good grades in school. And as I got into like my junior year, my grades were so good that I could have graduated. So my senior year was kind of like just, going through the
Show
motions.
up.
Show up or not show up, right?
Yes.
Just enough to pass and get by. And when I started to drink and smoke marijuana, it made me feel like I could fit in. I felt like prettier, faster, stronger, all of those things.
What age?
Like 17, 16, 17,
Okay, your
16.
sophomore, junior year.
Sophomore,
kind of
junior
thing?
year is where it kind of started. And then
Okay.
I was 17 when I was a senior.
How'd that get started? I understand the abandonment and everything, but what was it that kicked it off, that got it going? Was it just availability?
I believe so. My mother's family is a big Catholic family. So drinking and kind of like the party or happy or lifestyle. I watched adults throw Christmas parties and all kinds of things, and I saw them having what looked like was fun. Adults having fun, and I thought, wow, if I drink that stuff or do those things, I'm gonna laugh like that and feel like
I
that.
can be fun and have fun.
Absolutely. And so it was around. And so I had cousins that were around my age and my brother, and we kind of like
Availability.
started sneaking a little bit and experimenting, those kinds of things. And I mean, it wasn't uncommon that we were 16 years old or so, and parents would kind of, you could have one, or a cup from a keg, or, at my graduation party, we had a keg, and I was drinking freely from it, and that was okay. And so that, I think, kind of kick-started it. And then I saw that it helped me, like I said, of those things that I experienced before, like the courage and those things and the fitting in, but also like it numbed some things, and it numbed pain, but also gave me pleasure too.
And you probably didn't even know everything it was numbing, at least
no,
in your head.
I
But
didn't.
It just elevated what you felt at the time, so that was good enough.
That's right. And shortly after my graduation, my mother passed away from a massive heart attack. She was 42 years old. And I would say that really changed the trajectory of my life and fueled my addiction.
Was that expected at all?
No. It was a complete tragic. One day
Just
she's
out of the
here,
blue.
and one day she was at work and fell dead.
Yeah. I noticed earlier you talked about how you began experimenting. I think that's, it's certainly appropriate for what you said, but I think that's a word of the past, because experimenting today can be one and done.
Absolutely.
With fentanyl and drugs and everything
Yes.
that, we lace that pill with, or whatever the case may be. So the experimenting is extremely dangerous today. But I remember when you I don't want to say you had a chance, but you could get away with that without the fear of the danger.
Right. And I don't know too, for me, if experimenting with the alcohol, because alcoholism is my main, that's what I struggled with mostly. For me, if that first drink was a one and done for me.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah, could have been. Just because I know with things, genetics and things like that, I could have been born with,
That
just different.
predisposition.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did your alcoholism look like?
Oh, wow. What didn't it look like? I became a daily drinker probably by the age of 22.
You were how old when your mom passed?
I was 17.
Okay.
So I continued to drink and party with friends and do those, graduation parties. The college, I enrolled in a school, a community college close to home. I didn't want to leave my brother, so I didn't go away to school.
How much difference in the age between you and him?
He was 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
2 years. And so that's also when I started using cocaine. When I was 17, 18 years old, which just allowed me to drink more, kept me awake longer, those kinds of things. So I held down jobs and I was engaged to be married and so it wasn't an all day, every day, but usually I would come home at night and drink something until I got into my 30s and it became where I noticed myself like having a drink on my lunch hour or even before I would go into work in my 30s. And then I just became, as the disease progressed, because we know that it does, and it's chronic and it's fatal and it's progressive, and it continued to progress to the point, I have been hospitalized several times because of my alcoholism. The first time was in 2016, and I ended up in critical care. I was there 19 days. I had liver failure, stage 3 kidney failure, blood transfusions, a PICC line into my heart, and was told really that if you take another drink when you leave here, this is going to kill you. And I had lesions in my esophagus, and I was bleeding, and I got out of the hospital, and a month later, I found myself sideswiping a car and ditching the car I was in to run through a cemetery, ironically. It was story after story of just, I've had 4 DUIs, just...
Was that hospital stay your low of lows, do you believe, or what was?
No, I always say that there's a rock bottom, but I also have the ability to pick up a shovel and continue to dig deeper. One would think that was the low of lows, but like I said, I continued to just go lower. I think after that main hospitalization, I was probably hospitalized at least 10 more times, 8 to 10 more times.
For as critical of reasons?
Yes. One time in particular, in July of 17, again, my blood pressure had dropped to like 60/40, and I was rushed to Lima Memorial Hospital. I lived in northern Ohio then, and again, my liver was failing, and it was the same thing over and over again. The last time that I was hospitalized, I found myself laying there with these blue seizure pads on the side, and this was in Jay County, and they wanted me to go into their behavioral unit, which used to be attached to the hospital there, and I didn't want to, and somebody talked me into it, and I agreed to do that, and that was the last time I ever was hospitalized. I ever take a drink. The day before that was the last. And I don't know if I was just completely 100% sick and tired of being sick or tired. I was just so desperate. I didn't want to live, and I didn't want to die.
What made you think you could live? What made you think you were worth living? What was that lights on? I recognize you just shared with us somebody talked you into getting into the clinic. And
Yes.
that is where it sounds like things started to lift in your life and you started to move in a positive direction.
Yeah, and I had tried before in a 12-step program. I would have a few months of sobriety here and there. I've been in a sober living home in Mercer County, the House of Hope in 2018, and so I had bright lights here and there. I knew that I liked being sober and not being obsessed with taking a drink every day, but I just didn't know how to string those days together. Um, and that voice in my head that to kill the pain or that the alcohol was going to fix things, I don't know. I felt like I was in control, that this time would be different. Every single time I thought, okay, this will be different. I'll try this and it'll be different. And it was always worse. So when I was in that hospital in that behavioral health unit, that's where I think I reconnected with my God, really. And I just said, I can't do this anymore. I personally have zero control over this, and I'm willing to let go of that. And I need help, and that was it.
What brought the peace to your heart to recognize and realize I can, by God's help, with God's help, I can beat this?
Because I saw others who were living that way, that had what I wanted, and they had turned their lives over to something greater than them, and they were living beautiful lives, and that's truly what I wanted. I grew up with faith. I had faith. I remember being a little girl and saying my prayers in bed, and then when my mom passed away, I remember specifically a moment walking up these steps at my aunt's and saying out loud, like, "How could you do this to me, God?" Like, no,
The anger at God.
the anger, the absolute just, no, what kind of God takes a mom? It's not okay. And I walked away. And so as I had started to get a little bit of sobriety, get involved in a 12-step program, I started to reconnect a little bit more. When I would have periods of sobriety, I would have a spiritual connection, and I knew it and I felt it. But I would always decide to walk away. And the last time I remember even saying, like, I know right now that if I were to pray and just not pick this up and call a friend and do what I need to do, that, like, I wouldn't have to pick up this drink. But I don't really care. I just want to drink.
What did your support team look like at that time?
At that time, I had a sponsor in my 12-step program who had become like a mother to me. She had let me live in her home. And I had, and her husband, he wasn't her husband at the time, but a boyfriend. I had met someone who was not drinking, was not using. He was a huge, huge support to me. I had moved away from the Cincinnati area, which is where I'm from, and I'd moved up north. And so when I moved, I moved with someone who was an alcoholic, and then I got involved in the sober living. And so when I got involved in sober living, I had started to go to meetings. So I'd started 12-step meetings. I got involved with Brianna's Hope in Salina at that time. So I had a lot of support there. So I was surrounded with people who I could call, people who I could trust.
How do we do it without support? Without somebody, encouraging, without somebody to lean on, to speak with?
We don't. I don't think we do. I don't think we can. I can't. That saying, like, that, I don't even know how it goes at this point, but, opposite of recovery or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
That addiction is connection, however it goes.
Yep,
that saying that I
close
can't
enough.
bring to my mind right now
No.
because I got a microphone in front of me. But Yeah, without support, without other people who, you know what I'm going through and think like I think, and um, just people to show me that there's a better life and to give me hope and believe in me. I mean, I had a grand sponsor that, I mean, she believed in me. Every time, I would end up in the hospital and they would show up. They would just continue to show up. And I didn't understand how I continued to disappoint people, but they kept showing up.
That's godlike love.
Right. Because remember, in the beginning of my life, I felt like this abandonment. So I didn't understand why people were sticking around, because the abandonment was fueled even more. Like when my mother passed away, I felt like everybody in my life leaves me. And so why would you want to stay when I can't figure out how to put down a drink and I'm killing myself and I'm lying and I'm cheating and I'm stealing? Why would you love me?
What was the moment to where, instead of asking you about that low spot, okay, your rock bottom, what was the moment to where you said, I can, I'm going to? Was it after listening to those supporting you and recognizing, I made it today, maybe I can make it tomorrow?
Yeah. And I remember getting out of that behavioral unit, and the first thing I did was go to a support meeting, and I had people just surround me with love and were so glad that I was back. And I went home, and I remember getting in the shower, and I literally got on my knees in the shower and said a prayer. And then just every day, I just had this hunger for recovery like I used to have for the alcohol. And every day that I would get through, I would know, like, this is a miracle that I didn't have to pick up a drink today. Like, I finally was feeling that, and I just chased after it.
You were chasing after the positive life as hard
Absolutely.
as you were the negative before.
I
And
was.
that's where the change comes and the victory is seeded
Yes.
in that effort,
Yes.
springing off that rock bottom.
Yes.
So, yeah. What kind of advice would you give to someone with a brother or sister that was like you were during that time, Sarah? So I've got a brother who's battling, let's just say, the same battle you were. What's the advice you'd give me?
Well, and I did have a brother that was battling. And advice, the support that we've talked about,
Yes.
the meetings, all of the things that I tell the people that I work with and that I coach. But not so much in words, I don't think, but just showing them that I love them, continuing to show up for them, just like the people continue to show up for me. To tell them that it's not their fault that their brother or sister or family member is struggling with this. They didn't cause it, they can't control it, and they can't cure it. And so to just continue to walk alongside them and believe in them, even when it's really tough it's a tough thing to do.
What about your brother? Did he have struggles as well with addiction?
He did. I might get emotional.
That's all right.
He did. He started at a young age, the same as me, kind of in the same circle, doing the same things. And then he kind of turned towards opiates and pain pills. And he struggled all of his young life. And he would have intervals of recovery or clean time or whatever, however we want to say it. And then, the addiction would pull him back. He lived a long time in Genesis in Cincinnati. It was a sober living facility. I thought that finally, I always worried that one day I was going to get a call that, he had passed, that he had overdosed. I had lived with him several times, and I was afraid sometimes I'd go to the next room and I was going to open the door and he wouldn't be alive. Meanwhile, I'm battling my own addiction, but trying to help him. And unfortunately, he lost his battle. last July. He passed from a fentanyl overdose.
How old was he?
He was 41 years old.
Okay.
His birthday was yesterday. He would have been 43.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. What has that done to your perseverance? Has that caused you even more so to want to beat this monster, to come out on the other side, the Sara that you were created to be?
Absolutely. 1,000%. At the time when my brother passed, he had 5 years abstinent, clean, sober, whatever. And he had a real estate license. He had his peer recovery coaching certification, 2 beautiful children. From the outside looking in, he was thriving. But I had noticed that he wasn't going to support meetings. And he wasn't reaching out. And I would say to him, hey, you want to go to a meeting with me? Or he'd come speak at one of my meetings. And I would always encourage him when he would struggle with something or call me like, have you been to a meeting lately? Or, you calling somebody? And I always say, I've heard this before, that he let the gifts of sobriety rob him of the gift of sobriety. He got all of these things back.
He got comfortable.
Yeah, he did. And then
that should have been a question instead of me telling you. I'm sorry.
No, that's
it's that idea you get very comfortable with it, and it just slips in on you again.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it did. So, when I had initially heard of his path, when I got the phone call, I was angry again at God, but not for very long. And I switched that quickly to, if I go down this road again, this is going to take me right back to a bottle. I know that because I've been there before, and I have enough support. Ironically enough, I was at a friend's house with all of my 12-step support. We were there for a parade, actually. So there were 20 people there. I was right smack in the middle of all of my supports when I got that phone call.
Wow.
And I know that that's no accident,
No.
right? So I just knew that I had to show up for his daughter and his son. And I don't have children of my own, and I had to be an aunt to them that I was not for a lot of their life. And I had to continue to show up for myself every single day. And I know that I served a mighty God. And I just leaned into that. And instead of being angry, I just prayed for comfort and help, and it has pushed me. I knew that it was either going to push me further into working with those in recovery, or I was going to completely just walk away from it.
That's usually the case.
Yeah.
One extreme or the
One
other.
or the other, the all or nothing thinking, right? And so I know what he would want me to do, and that was continue to do this work, and show up for myself and show up for others every single day. Just if I can, one person, not save, because I can't save anybody, but if I can instill hope in somebody just one day, one day at a time, one person at a time.
You can show them the path to getting saved.
And I can honor him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking saved physically or saved spiritually. We
Absolutely.
can't do either one. I get that, folks. But we can be the tool that gets them there.
That's right.
If you had moments with your brother, one more conversation, what would it sound like?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I'm sure.
And I've thought about that a lot, actually. Gosh, one more conversation just to I don't know. Ask him if he was okay. Ask him what I could do. Ask him where his head was at, and I don't know what kind of conversation we're talking about, or just, like
Whatever you want it to be, just simply whatever you want it to be.
that, even as angry as I am at not him, at this disease is what I'm angry at. Just to tell him how much I love him and how I will continue to show up for him, for myself.
I like the
This
idea.
is tough.
Well, I'm sure. I like the idea of you saying you'll continue to show up for him, for us. He is another reason to be reaching out to others, yes?
Yes.
If somebody could have reached him, and I'm sure you've done all the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and probably beaten yourself up over several things, but we have our limits. As much as we want it for someone else, whether it's a mental health condition, a physical health, we can help. We can't do it.
No.
Or we would have already if
Right.
that's the way it worked. But especially, quote, in the business, you recognize I can't. It's not good for me and it's not going to work for you. So,
Yeah.
we can offer, we can put it on the table. It's like feeding someone. They've got to put it on their plate.
That's right. That's right. I had to take action and start to participate in my own recovery. I had to stop blaming other people, and I'm not a victim. And I had to start taking action and participating in my own recovery.
What are the disciplines you follow now to stay above your past?
So, like I said before, I work a 12-step program, and so I didn't just work those once and kind of walk away from that. I do that every single day. I try to live those steps of recovery. And I've made amends with people in my past and with my dad and things like that to get free of that. Not for other people, mostly for me. But today, what my day looks like, prayer in the morning and asking for help. I don't ask God today to keep me sober because I play a part in that. But I do ask him to help me, and I know that he will and that he does. And I do some meditation readings, just kind of different books that I have, daily reflections, a Jesus calling, just some different books like that. Sorry, my phone is. And then I attend meetings. I have a sponsor that I continue to call. My work is not my recovery. Yes, I'm helping others in that, but
Let me interrupt.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
do you separate your recovery from your work?
It can be difficult. It
Sure.
really can be difficult, but I know that I have to work on me, and that whole cliche, like, can't pour from an empty cup, but that's really the truth, to take care of me so that I can be there for other people. Because if I don't want to sit with a peer and have this emotional discussion like we've just had. I use what I've been through, my experience, strength, and hope to help them. But if I'm not okay with that today, or if I'm not in tune and in touch with that in my own story, then I get too wrapped up in their story, their crisis. That's not my crisis.
My career was ministry, 40 plus years at this point, and I hear absolutely everything you're saying. If I wasn't prepared to help, and by prepared, I don't mean studied or have this lesson. If I wasn't prepared emotionally, physically, spiritually, I wasn't going to be of much help.
Absolutely.
And could clouded the issue more than I could help straighten it out.
Yeah.
And I recognize and I realize there's no lawyer on earth that's ever won every case. There's no doctor that's gotten a patient out of this life alive. They've all lost patients. And I am not going to succeed at being that tool that finds everybody recovery. If I was, we wouldn't have the time for this podcast, all right?
Absolutely.
Or the need for it. I'd be the know-it-all I think I am sometimes.
Right.
So there's nothing easy about it. It does require sacrifice. It requires just as much preparation of self.
Yes.
It's like, for example, maybe, but athletics, you've got to be in condition to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to be in condition to play the game of life when we're talking about recovery. What do you want folks to know before we get ready to wrap up here in a few moments?
I just want folks to know that we do recover. We can recover. That there is help available. That there's people to talk to. That there's love in recovery and friendships. That this way of living is better than I could ever imagine. There are no words to explain what it feels like to live the life that I live today.
I'll ask you the same question I've asked others. It sounds silly, but I'd still like to hear your answer. Do you want to go back to the old Sarah, or are you happier with the present and the future Sarah?
I am extremely happy with the present and future Sarah. There's that thing I hear people say, like, "Oh, I just want to get my life back. I just want,
No, you don't.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't want any part of that life."
That's why you went through what you went
That's
through.
right. I've been given a new life. Like, I've been picked up literally and dropped into a new life, and it's beyond my wildest dreams.
Over the years of my ministry, I counseled, I can't tell you how many, and I would hear, "Oh, we just want to get our marriage back where it was." And I would say, "No, you don't, or you'd be in here 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years from now, okay?"
Yeah.
So, we get there, and it continues to be a journey. It's not a destination. Recovery's not a mountaintop moment and you're there forever. We've got to come down to the world. We've got to participate. We've got to be there with others, for others. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And that is the thing, like, for me to always remain teachable. I have so much more to learn and to grow and all of those things. Because, I hear that thing too, like, "Oh, you got this," or "I got this." I don't have this. Like, today I'm good. Tomorrow's a new day. And so I live one day at a time. And even though my life is beyond my wildest dreams today, and I'm not talking material or things like that, but I have my moments. I have bad days. I have problems. But nothing like what I've experienced before.
The scriptures say his mercies are new every morning.
Every morning.
There's a reason for that, because we're
morning.
going to need them every day.
That's right.
We don't have it. That daily bread that it speaks about in the Lord's Prayer. We need enough of the mercies, enough of the bread, enough of the love, enough of the forgiveness, and that goes on to get us through today, and he'll supply more tomorrow.
That's right. And the grace.
Amen.
Definitely the grace.
Amen. So anything else before we close off here?
No, I know. I just really, I thank you for having me. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate this a lot. Hey, listen, I've got this upon my heart. I don't know that I've done this in 150 plus episodes, but let's have a prayer. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Lord, thanks. Thanks for your touch upon our lives. Thanks for the gifts that you give us when we need them the most. And what a gift it is. That gift of grace, of mercy, of love. And the list goes on and on. We couldn't begin to thank you for all of it. But as we count our blessings, you're certainly at the top of the list. Thanks for your healing power. Continue with us. Continue with Sara and the work she does. Watch over her, bless her. We just praise your name and give you thanks. We love you, Jesus. In your name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Folks, we hope you'll continue to tune in, that you'll share this with others, that you'll subscribe and like. Let us know. Go ahead and shoot us an email, podcast@ablbh.org. We'd love to hear from you. God bless. Take care. Stay in the battle.